We're going to move on to the Mail, and they must have loved writing this story.
Yeah, this is brilliant, and I personally like this one because The Guardian really chipped in on cancelling me personally, so...
That's sort of their thing, isn't it?
Yeah, the world's wokest newspaper.
Yeah, they're the Merry White House of the day.
That's it. So, will The Guardian now have to cancel itself over row over slavery links sparked by planned podcasts? The ever-woke Guardian finds itself in the centre of a race row. A planned podcast by the newspaper about its historic connections to the slave trade has led to race complaints. So some of the producers on this podcast basically accused The Guardian of lacking a desire to face and interrogate its own historic role, and they've just tried to dismiss their links to the slave trade as trauma and baggage, and they're kind of
well, we should say in The Guardian's defence, I suppose, that they did commission the podcast. They wanted to examine their own connections to the slave trade because the founder of The Guardian, John Edward Taylor, made his fortune from the cotton trade, from slavery. OK, so The Guardian wouldn't exist if it weren't for slavery. I used to do a stand-up bit about this, because it wasn't just that. The Guardian also supported the South in the Civil War, and The Guardian also criticised Abraham Lincoln for freeing the slaves. So by their own logic, because they're talking about tearing down statues all the time of slave owners, they should burn every copy of The Guardian by their own logic, right? But the thing about this is they did commission this podcast to investigate it, but now the producers are saying, but you're basically trying to fudge it.
You're censoring us doing our job a little bit.
Exactly. So they've got to go all out and just accept the blame. I think they should blow up their own offices, right? Would that be the sensible thing to do?
It would be, Andrew. And commissioning it perhaps shows some integrity, a bit like when the BBC investigated themselves over their reliance on Stonewall.
Yeah.
But then they backed out The Guardian and kind of, well, according to this at least, they've sort of dismissed the concerns. So, yeah, it's always fun when the left eats itself. I mean, this thing about slavery, I mean, we also are the country that ended slavery, but now instead we have to just constantly hate ourselves forever over, and just we're in this endless loop of self-loathing. Meanwhile, there are more slaves alive now than at any time in various countries, but no, that's less interesting to The Guardian.
But it's easier to pull down a statue than actually deal with the slavery that's going on in the world today. This is but like you say, it is people eating themselves. It is the logical end point of this stuff, because anything can be tied to something problematic in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely anything.
Because the whole past was pretty problematic, Andrew.
The past is the past should be cancelled.
Exactly.
We should just do a year zero.
Just start again.
Start again.
Start fresh.
Yeah, OK. With that in mind, let's move on.